When a recession hits, most people are blindsided by what income stream are going to collapse. But it doesn't hit all the income stream the same way. Some are going to shatter and some will bend. And few are actually going to get stronger. Knowing which one is it is the secret. And what falls apart is going to protect you in a downturn. So let's talk about the first to fall income stream. Now, these are the income streams that are residing on the financial edge. They're the first one that is going to get evaporated out when the economy is going to get tightened, and for one simple reason, because they're tied to the wants of the people and not necessarily the needs. So when families and businesses have to start cutting costs, these are always the first thing to go. So what goes first? Well, the income from freelancing and the contract work in non-essential fields. I'm talking about like a freelance graphic designers or marketing consultants and many creative roles. As soon as the company is going to need cash reserve, they're going to chop their marketing, advertising, pull the plug on any kind of new website design. So that monthly retainer for social media, that is going to be a variable cost, and it's very easy to cut. That budget for the website design is going to push off for eternity in some cases. Now, in a recession, the companies go from the growth mode into a survival mode. They're going to stop spending things on that might get the customer tomorrow or later in the year and focus on what is needed to keep the lights on today. So for a lot of freelancers, a recession really means a sudden and brutal fight to fewer and fewer projects and clients who are willing to pay a lot less. The next one, you have the side hustles that are built on selling non-essential goods. Now, this is basically like if you're selling something on Etsy, like custom wall art or dropshipping store with the latest technology or trends, or even coaching services that are not solving the critical business problem. When a recession is going to hit, the consumer behavior is going to shift almost overnight because of fear primarily, and people are going to slam the brakes on impulsive buying decisions. So that unique handcrafted widget is going to be replaced by a conscious decision to put the money in the saving account for those downturns. Now, the hard truth is that these income streams are tied directly to how confident the people are going to feel about the economy. So when the confidence is going to fall off the cliff, your sales impact is going to be very painful and immediate hit. Then you have the commission-only sales role in cyclical industries. Now, not all sales roles, but think about the people who are selling brand new cars, luxury real estate, or even high-end technological gadgets. These industries are cyclical because the boom depends when the times are good, and they go bust when the times are bad. So when the credit tightens and the layoff starts to happen, the demand for a new Range Rover or a 5-bedroom house is going to evaporate. No sales is going to mean no commission. So your income is going to drop to zero in a terrifyingly short amount of time. Finally, the ad revenue from platforms like YouTube or Block. A lot of people think that this is the safest income, but honestly not. They can take a huge hit, especially if your content is not recession proof. A YouTube channel that focuses on, let's say, luxury travel or fashion are going to feel an instant hit in their advertising revenue because the advertisers are going to disappear. Now, on the other hand, if the channel is going to teach people how to budget or how to fix their own car by themselves, like a DIY, they're going to see a huge boost, because that's where the money is going to be diverted. The next one is the income stream that are going to be under pressure. They may not completely evaporate. They're not going to collapse overnight, but instead they're going to suffer a painful and steady decline. They have more power than the first group, which we already know, but they're long away from being safe. A great example that I can share with you is rental income. Now, a lot of people may think that the rental income is recession proof because everyone needs a place to live. But being a landlord is not totally recession proof. During a serious downturn, the landlord is going to get hit from two different sides. One, you're going to get more empty lots because people are going to probably save money for food rather than paying the rent, which can lead to a longer, expensive eviction battle if they're not going to pay the rent on time. At the same time, the other people will downsize. They're going to move into a roommate. They're going to create more vacancies. So while overall demand rentals might go up, but fewer people can actually afford to buy or rent a house, which means that as a landlord, you're not safe. Landlords often have to slash their prices or even offer big incentives to get a good tenant in the door, and that's going to squeeze their profit margin to almost nothing. The next one comes from many small businesses, especially in the hospitality industry like restaurants, cafes, or local retail shops. When people tighten their budgets, eating outside becomes the first luxury to go away. The daily coffee is going to be replaced by having coffee at home. This slow and steady drop in foot traffic for your business can be fatal because they're already running on very thin margin. You might not have to close the first month, but after 6 months, the bleeding of cash becomes intolerable and the businesses are forced to shut down. Now, we also see the pressure on established businesses like e-commerce brands that sell non-essential goods. Now, unlike a weekend dropshipping hustle, these brands have big warehouses, they have inventory, they have employees. They have more staying power, but still selling things that people don't actually need during a recession. They might survive the initial shock, but they're going to be forced to shut down or offer a heavy discounting to continue to have the cash coming in the door. And that absolutely is going to crush their profit margin. And this is going to lead to layoff. And in some cases, the business is also going to go under. And we saw during the COVID time, many retailers faced this problem, even though they were fairly large retailers. Lastly, the tier income from the startup job, especially if you're part of a company where your compensation is a stock option. Startups, particularly that are not profitable, they're going to be living and dying on venture capital funding. So in a recession, that investor money is going to completely dry out, which means the venture capitalists are going to get scared and they're going to stop making risky bets. This is going to force the startup into a survival mode, which means one thing: widespread layoff. And that stock equity that was supposed to be your lottery ticket is going to become worthless overnight, because if the company is not going to be able to raise the next round of funding, or they're going to lay you off. Now, before we move on to the income stream that actually is going to hold during the recession, if you're getting value from the breakdown so far, do me a favor and hit that like and subscribe button. And I'm very curious, so put in the comment box which of these income streams you have been most concerned about. I promise I'm going to read them all and respond to them as well. The next one, we're going to look at the income stream that is battered but not broken. This group is tough, but not really totally invincible. These income streams are connected to the more stable part of the economy because they fulfill the essential needs, which gives them the shield from the worst of the impact on the market. A great example of this is going to be dividend stocks. Not all dividend stocks are the same, and we already know that. And some of the dividend stock can drop the value of the stock itself, which is going to be like a double whammy because you're not getting the dividend and the stock is dropping. But in the recession, the companies that are in shaky industries or those with huge amount of debt are likely to cut the dividends to preserve the cash. Now, we saw this happening during the COVID times. A lot of companies did that. But there's a special group that are known as dividend aristocrats. These companies have increased their dividend payment consistently for the last 25 consecutive years. They use usually in a stable, more mature businesses in sectors like healthcare or consumer needs businesses. The fact that they have consistently raised the dividend throughout the past recession, they tell you a lot about their financial strengths. The next one in this case are the corporate salaries in established non-cyclical industries. Well, let me tell you this. None of the jobs in this world is 100% secure. But role in a sector like a healthcare, utilities, or consumer packaged goods, it's far more secure than the job in hospitality, high-end retail, or even technological companies. Now, people still need electricity. They need toilet paper. They're going to get sick, so they need doctor. So no matter what the stock is doing, these companies are going to probably implement like a hiring freeze, but the mass layoffs are going to be much less common. And finally, in this category, we have consulting and freelance roles that are directly tied to saving money and solving a critical business problem. Now, the marketing consultants or the creative design consultant, they're probably going to get fired the first. But the financial advisor who's going to help the business get out of the debt, and or the logistics expert who's going to help the business to slash their operating costs, are going to suddenly find themselves in very high demand. Here's the key difference. During the recession, the pain is going to become a powerful motivator. So if your service is like a vitamin, which is nice to have, your income is going to be at a risk. But if your service is a painkiller, a must-have solution for a critical problem, your income is going to be far, far more resilient. Now we come to the recession-proof havens. At the very top of this pyramid, you're going to find an income fortress. These are the most secure income streams because they're either fundamentally essential or they're backed by entities. They're not going to really care about the economic cycle as much as the other entities. Think about this as a boring but bulletproof opportunities. The most obvious one is the government and public sector jobs. Teachers, police officers, firefighters, and other essential government workers that provide service that has to continue. It doesn't matter if it's a recession or not. And primary reason is because their funding comes from taxes. So which way economy goes, you still have to pay your taxes. You have to pay your sales tax, income tax. Right along the same income stream is going to come from healthcare sectors like doctors, nurses, other medical professionals. They're going to provide a non-negotiable service. Now, people are always going to need medical care. It doesn't matter if it's a good time or bad. This constant and unwavering demand is going to make the healthcare one of the most recession-proof business industries on the planet. Another fortress that I have found out is the income tied to utilities and essential infrastructure. Now, healthcare gets a lot of the benefits and points on this, but people tend to ignore that the companies are going to provide your water, electricity, or internet, and the modern necessities. You're going to probably cut down on everything else on your budget before you cut down on your power. This gives these companies and the people that employed an incredibly stable and predictable source of revenue, especially even in storms where everything gets impacted. If it's a longer storm, these companies are in popular demand. Now, finally, let's revisit the asset, but this time the truly resilient one, which is cash following in essential sectors. Like, for example, when some of the landlords of luxury apartment are going to get squeezed, owning an affordable rental property is often going to see a stable income or even higher demand as people are going to be forced out and asked to downsize. And here's a surprising winner: self-storage facilities. So in time of chaos, downsizing and moving, the demand for cheap place to put your stuff is going to skyrocket because people need a place to put their stuff, even though they might not have a house. So what is the big takeaway here? A recession is not going to treat all the money the same way. It's a stress test that ruthlessly finds the weak points in your financial life. The income stream that die first are going to be built on the wants, trends, and the budget that are very, very easy to cut. The one that's going to survive and even thrive are going to be built on the needs that are going to solve a critical problem and provide a real long-term value. So my recommendation is to look for the ways to build skills or add new income stream for one of the safer tiers that we just talked about. So look at the pyramid and find the ones, especially at the top. And if you're ready to take the next step and build a truly resilient financial life, make sure you subscribe, and thanks for watching.